Hello and welcome to the channel where today we're going to talk about the Space Wolves. I'm joined by Clem, an avid Space Wolf player. How you doing today, mate?
I'm really good. Thanks for having me on the show. It's great to be here and to talk about one of my armies I've heard. I started with it. It's such a great place to be now.
Yeah, I guess that's the kind of the first question. I guess what a lot of people want to know: how good do you think Space Wolves are? Do you think they're good enough to like win tournaments? Where do you think they kind of sit?
Winning tournaments, you need the luckiest and perfect, pairing and so on. It's definitely an army where you can do well, but it's still really hard to play into Tyranids, Craftworlds, or Eldari in a hauler, in a bigger box is quite tough to play into.
I will say, we've actually played before, and I've played against these Space Wolves, and I will say your list is pretty similar to what you were running pre-Armor of Contempt. So how come you're still running a similar kind of list?
Armor of Contempt is great. It's a good boost, but it's not what is going to make a massive change in terms of survivability.
Okay.
It will help, no deny about it, and everybody is taking into Armor of Contempt. So everybody dropped the shields into Vanguard vets, but everybody is now taking into AP3, AP4, AP5. So they become squishier to random shooting, such as, plasma crisis suits. So if you take the list I'm running, which is really heavy infantry and aggressive and training about it with all of that, the 4-up actually can spike. The 2-up on the save as well is quite interesting. Outside of being in cover, because scatter lasers and swooping orcs are a thing. You can spike up the 2-up and they can have a really rough day after that.
Yeah, that's true. The 2-up is very nice. I will say one thing about your list that is also still quite interesting is that you are running the Successor chapter.
Yep.
Whirlwind of Rage, Born Heroes, definitely the most popular combo that I see people take. So how come you've gone for the Successor chapter?
Yeah, so I'd say the base chapter trait from Space Wolf is good, especially the +1 to it. Even when you get charged, that's really, really good. But the heroic interventions on all units actually gets really played around very easily. So it's really hard to actually leverage it.
And you have the stratagem to do it over 6 inches anyway when you need it. So,
which is amazing. Yeah. But getting +1 to hit when you charge and exploding sixes all the time, essentially, on the first round of combat.
Yeah.
When you stack it to the super doctrine from Space Wolf, it means 2 exploding sixes in a sub doctrine. And when you get full rerolls, so hitting on 2s, double exploding sixes, you'll just roll anything that is not a 6.
Yeah.
And as you said, this is where you start to have characters where you can play with it, which are pretty good. And my favorite one, you've seen it in action, is my Chapter Master. You give him everything. Here's the wallet, he's got a pair of lightning claws, and he's got a jump pack. So he's going to be 7 attacks on a charge. And then you give him a first wallet trait, Space Wolf, which is Saga the Hunter. So that means he can advance and charge, fall back and charge. And if he makes a charge after that phase, he gives advance and charge to all core units within 6 inches, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
And you give him the Imperium Sword as a second wallet trait, which is +1 attack, +1 strength when you charge or heroic intervene, and you stack it with the Frost Weapon relic from the Space Wolf. It's cool, not a full-on relic, it's the special equipment, and it gives +1 strength, +1 damage to the pair of lightning claws.
That's really cool.
So that means on the charge, he's going to be 8 attacks, hitting on 2s, hitting on 1s, but hitting on 2s, strength 6, AP3, flat 2 damage, reroll to hit, reroll to wound. I've seen him doing 20 plus damage to units.
Yeah, with the explosions as well. That's huge potential.
Exactly.
So one of the things that's very nice about this, of course, is that they have written into the lore specifically that Space Wolves do now have successors. However, there are going to be a lot of people that want to play specifically as the route. So if you want to play as a non-successor Space Wolf army, are there any of the Space Wolf characters that interest you at all?
Yeah, so Bjorn is he's a nice character to play. He's quite of a bit stick as a dread. He's less than 10 wounds, so he can be character protected. And he hit really, really hard and really hard to shift. So quite a nice piece there.
Yeah.
And as soon as you get with like a dread, such as Bjorn in the center, then you can run like triple Redemptor. And That least archetype with armor concept got a massive uplift where dreads are not going to die anymore at the meanest look from Cow, from Eldars, and so on.
Yeah. I guess outside of the Space Wolf characters, you have got a lot of the kind of Space Wolf specific units, which is really cool to see. So I think it's definitely worth talking about those. Firstly, Wolfen, I really like now. I think they got a points drop like last year or something. Really useful because they're very hard to dig out of a a building or whatever. Is that kind of the general style for them?
Yeah, so I started to use them before their point shift. Just one squad with lightning close was really good. Traded very well into Drukhari. And now with a point shift, the hammer unit is just amazing. For 145 points, you will get one guy with a power of lightning close, which is 6 attack, strength 5, and 4 guys with hammer and shields, which are 16, strength 10 attacks. That 3 damage.
Yeah.
And they're always in Assault Doctrine. So it's always AP3, always double exploding sixes.
Oh, wow. That is cool. I think they're pretty reasonably priced. Realistically, you got 135 for some of these squads, 145, the most expensive one. You've also got the Cyballs in here as well. What is the purpose of those? Are they a secondary kind of option? What's really the idea there?
They're just great. Never leave your home without them. I did play for some time without because I had Landspeeder Storms, but Cyborg are just better.
Right.
For secondaries, they will play into 2 different secondaries, which are quite good. Oath of Moment or Warrior Pride, which are like 2 of the main secondaries you will play as a Space Wolf player.
Yeah.
So they count for holding the center, and for Warrior Pride for triggering one of the charges that you will be playing. Their screen, their tag, their soak up Overwatch.
Yeah.
They can actually do the actions on data scryage, salvage. So one of the missions.
Yeah.
So many little things that these guys can do.
Definitely, yeah, some very good boys there. And the Long Fangs as well, kind of in a similar way to Wolfguard, they've got a little bit of a change from the classic Devastator squad. You get an extra weapon in Long Fangs, I believe. So, in the drop pod, they must do some great work for you, I guess.
Exactly. So you can have up to a squad of 6 with 5 heavy weapons. I used to run 2 of these fully buffed into 2 different drop pods. I reverted back to a more standard layout, which is just 4 heavy weapons, so 2 squad into 1 drop pod. Bit more standard. So the extra weapon were really good. The fact to have 2 drop pods, very interesting from a tactical perspective, as well from how your opponent feels threatened.
Right.
But it's double-edged sword. It's a very expensive investment. In the end, I was able to fit in a bit more Wolfens for dropping that.
Is there anything else that you have played around with in your Space Wolves list? Any other units that do interest you?
So I did play a bit with the Bloodclaws instead of the Assault Intercessors. I think Bloodclaws are quite good for their points. They have lots of attacks. So 5 points cheaper than Assault Intercessors, and they have about the same volume of attacks with chainsaws, so quite good. But now with Armor of Contempt, I think the Assault Intercessors are a bit better because they have that transhumant possibility. So for 1 CP, it can completely shift their survivability. So in my view, this is where Armor of Contempt plays the best, is all these squishy units we had, such as the scoring units, the Cyber Wolves, they do benefit from it.
Yeah.
The Long Fangs, all of these were super squishy and just died. Now, toe in a cover, they can generally survive a lot. And if you have that capability for 1 CP to do your transhumant, really, really can shift in terms of holding primaries and so on.
That's a pretty good segue there for us then. So in terms of your stratagems that you find you use most games, or that, even situationally can be really powerful, what are kind of your go-to stratagems?
So we talked already about it. One of my favorite is the Heroic Interventions Countercharge. So it's 0 CP for characters, 1 CP for everybody else, and you get a 6 inches Heroic Intervention. It's amazing. Use it to steal objectives and so on, because not everybody realized that Heroic Interventions does not require to end in engagement range.
Right.
So you can use it to slingshot and go up, to place yourself differently. Deny a stranglehold because you use it to move one of your obsec bodies onto an objective and so on.
Yeah, really, really clever. And then I guess on the Long Fangs, being able to ignore the heavy weapons penalties got to be pretty big.
Yeah, so kin senses on the Long Fangs or the Wolfens. So kin senses, you ignore any or all hit modifiers, being long range or close combat, and charge modifiers. So anything related to -2 charges, such as Tau, the rangers with wire with nets, all of that is quite good. And that means you have your 16 attacks with hammers hitting on 2s,
Nice.
which is pretty good.
And can I ask, as a non-Space Wolves player, do you ever get to use the stratagem that allows you to count another saga as active, even if you didn't select it? Because that sounds so cool to get to use in the game. I've never seen it done.
It sounds really cool, but what you realize is all your characters have warlord traits.
Oh, right, okay.
So you can't do it.
Yeah.
You can't do it. So, yeah, I think I did it once.
Fair.
In one of my early games, and my librarian didn't had any saga.
Right.
And he suffered a peril, suffered a wound, and I popped to get the 6 inches, 6 up Final Pain. And it's fun, but it's too CB.
Yeah.
Too expensive.
Yeah. No, for sure. And you've kind of got the best one in Hunter, I guess, already.
Yep.
Very cool. So in terms of secondary play, you've mentioned Oath of Moment, very popular Space Marine secondary. Any other secondaries that you generally find you take a lot with this list?
Yeah, so Oath of Moment is a good secondary when you play heavy dread list. You will see Christopher Radford, for example, plays 3 Redemptors at the latest UKTC event. Or list which is based on what we used to play before all the craziness with 2 Redemptors and a Contemptor. Nowadays, or with a list such as mine, which is really heavy on infantry, trading units, etc. Warrior Pride, which is in the same category, is actually really good. You just need to make 2 charges to get 3 points every turn. On average, with it, I scored about 10 to 12, so when I said 10 is on average, I will do 9, I will do 12, sometimes 15, but really, really rarely below 9, almost never. So really, really good there. Stranglehold, Space Marines are really solid into that.
Yeah.
And the last one is more of a wild card, which is quite often banners. Psychic Interrogation is another one that I used to play, because now I've got a librarian, so I can leverage the psychic ones.
Well, there we have it. Those are some strategies and tactics for you Space Wolf fans. Clem, thank you so much for coming on the channel.
It's a pleasure.
Well, best of luck with the Space Wolves in the future. I hope this video was really useful to everyone watching, and I'll see you next time.